Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All Krishna Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to our evening Bhagavad Gita circle. Without further delay, the reader and the class will be given by His Grace Pariksit Prabhu. Without further delay, he's going to start. So let's hear attentively. Hare Krishna.
Hare. Yeah. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshacharini. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jai. Good evening, dear devotees. So we'll continue the Bhagavad Gita circle with chapter 1, observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, text 25. Bhishma Drona Pamukhata Shavisam Cha Mahishitam Uvacha Patapashyetan Samavetan Kuruniti. Okay. So, translation by Srila Prabhupada. In the presence of Bhishma, Drona, and all the other chieftains of the world, the Lord said, "Just behold, Partha, all the Kurus assembled here." Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As the super soul of all living entities, Lord Krishna could understand what was going on in the mind of Arjuna. The use of the word Hrishikesha, in this connection indicates that he knew everything. And the word Partha, meaning the son of Prita or Kunti, is also similarly significant in reference to Arjuna. As a friend, he wanted to inform Arjuna that because Arjuna was the son of Prita, the sister of his own father Vasudeva, he had agreed to be the charioteer of Arjuna. Now, what did Krishna mean when he told Arjuna to behold the Kurus? Did Arjuna want to stop there and not fight? Krishna never expected such things from the son of his aunt Prita. The mind of Arjuna was thus predicted by the Lord in friendly joking. Text 26. Tatra pasyastitan partha pitrin ata pitamahan acharyan matulan bratrin putra potan chakim sata swashuran suhidas chaiva senayo uhayo api. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. There Arjuna could see within the midst of the armies of both parties his fathers, grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, friends, and also his fathers-in-law and well-wishers. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. On the battlefield, Arjuna could see all kinds of relatives. He could see persons like Bhurishrava, who were his father's contemporaries, grandfathers Bhishma and Somadatta, teachers like Dronacharya and Kripacharya, maternal uncles like Shalya and Shakuni, brothers like Duryodhana, sons like Lakshmana, friends like Ashwatthama, well-wishers like Kritavarma, etc. He could see also the armies which contained many of his friends. Text 27. Tan samikshya sakonteya sarvan bandhun avastitan kripaya paravya pisto vishidan idam abravit. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. When the son of Kunti, Arjuna, saw all these different grades of friends and relatives, he became overwhelmed with compassion and spoke thus. Text 28. Arjuna vacha resvemam svajanam Krishna yuyutsum samupastitam siddhanti mama gatrani mukam cha parisushati. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Arjuna said, "My dear Krishna, seeing my friends and relatives present before me in such a fighting spirit, I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth drying up. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Any man who has genuine devotion to the Lord has all the good qualities which are found in godly persons or in the demigods, whereas the non-devotee, however advanced he may be in material qualifications by education and culture, lacks in godly qualities. As such, Arjuna, just after seeing his kinsmen, friends, and relatives on the battlefield, was at once overwhelmed by compassion for them who had so decided to fight amongst themselves. As far as his soldiers were concerned, he was sympathetic from the beginning, but he felt compassion even for the soldiers of the opposite party, foreseeing their imminent death. And while he was so thinking, the limbs of his body began to quiver and his mouth became dry. He was more or less astonished to see their fighting spirit. Practically the whole community, all blood relatives of Arjuna, had come to fight with him. This overwhelmed a kind devotee like Arjuna. Although it is not mentioned here, still one can easily imagine that not only were Arjuna's bodily limbs quivering and his mouth drying up, but he was also crying out of compassion. Such symptoms in Arjuna were not due to weakness, but due to his soft-heartedness, a characteristic of a pure devotee of the Lord. It is said, therefore, Yashyasti bhakti bhagavatya kinchana save gunas tatra samasate shura harava bhaktakshya kuto mahadguna mano ratinasati dvavato bahir. One who has unflinching devotion for the personality of Godhead has all the good qualities of the demigods. But one who is not a devotee of the Lord has only material qualifications that are of little value. This is because he is hovering on the mental plane and is certain to be attracted by the glaring material energy. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 18, Text 12. Text 29. Vepatuscha sarire me romaha chachayate kandivan samsate hastat tvakcheva paridadhyate. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. My whole body is trembling. My hair is standing on end. My bow gandiva is slipping from my hand, and my skin is burning. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There are two kinds of trembling of the body and two kinds of standings of the hair on end. Such phenomena occur either in great spiritual ecstasy or out of great fear under material conditions. There is no fear in transcendental realization. Arjuna's symptoms in this situation are out of material fear, namely loss of life. This is evident from the symptoms also. This is evident from other symptoms also. He became so impatient that his famous bow, Gandiva, was slipping from his hands, and because his heart was burning within him, he was feeling a burning sensation of the skin. All these are due to a material conception of life. Text 30. Na cha shanknomya vastatum brahmaktiva chame mana nimitani chapashyami viparitani keshava. Prabhupada's translation. I am now unable to stand here any longer. I'm forgetting myself and my mind is reeling. I see only causes of misfortune, O Krishna, killer of the Keshi demon. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Due to his impatience, Arjuna was unable to stay on the battlefield, and he was forgetting himself on account of his weakness, of this weakness of his mind. Excessive attachment for material things puts a man in such a bewildering condition of existence. Bhayam Dvitiya Bhinayveshata Syat. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 2, Text 37. Such fearfulness and loss of mental equilibrium take place in persons who are too affected by material conditions. Arjuna envisioned only painful reverses in the battlefield. He would not be happy even by gaining victory over the foe. The words nimittani viparitani are significant. When a man sees only frustration in his expectations, he thinks, why am I here? Everybody is interested in himself and his own welfare. No one is interested in the Supreme Self. Arjuna is showing ignorance of his real self-interest by Krishna's will. One's real self-interest lies in Vishnu or Krishna. The conditioned soul forgets this and therefore suffers material pains. Arjuna thought that his victory in the battle would only be a cause of lamentation for him. Text 31. Na chashreyo nupashyami hatvasva janam ahave na kangshe vijayam Krishna na cha rajam sukanicha. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsmen in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Without knowing that one's self-interest is in Vishnu or Krishna, conditioned souls are attracted by bodily relationships, hoping to be happy in such situations. In such a blind conception of life, they forget even the causes of material happiness. Arjuna appears to have even forgotten the moral codes for a Kshatriya. It is said that two kinds of men, namely the Kshatriya who dies on the battlefront and the person in the renounced order of life, who is absolutely devoted to spiritual culture, are eligible to enter into the sun globe, which is so powerful and dazzling. Arjuna is reluctant even to kill his enemies, let alone his relatives. He thinks that by killing his kinsmen, there will be no happiness in his life, and therefore he is not willing to fight, just as a person who does not feel hunger is not inclined to cook. He has now decided to go into the forest and live a secluded life in frustration. But as a Kshatriya, he requires a kingdom for his subsistence, because the Kshatriyas cannot engage themselves in any other occupation. But Arjuna has no kingdom. Arjuna's sole opportunity for gaining a kingdom lies in fighting with his cousins and brothers and reclaiming the kingdom inherited from his father, which he does not like to do. Therefore, he considers himself fit to go to the forest to live a secluded life of frustration. Text 32 to 35. Kim no rajena govinda, kim bhoga jivite nava, yesham arte kangshitam no, rajam bhoga sukhanicha, ta ime vastita yudhe, pranam shakva tananicha, acharya pitara putras, tateva cha pitamaha, matula shvashura potra, shala sambadinastata, etana hantum ichtami, gnatopi madhusudana, apitrelo karajasya, etokim numahi krite, nihatya datarashrana, kapiti janadana. Srila Prabhupada's translation. O Govinda, of what avail to us are a kingdom, happiness, or even life itself, when all those for whom we may desire them are now arrayed on this battlefield? O Bodhisattva, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, and other relatives are ready to give up their lives and properties and are standing before me, why should I wish to kill them, even though they might otherwise kill me? O maintainer of all living entities, I'm not prepared to fight with them, even in exchange for the three worlds, let alone this earth. What pleasure will we derive from killing the sons of Dhritarashtra? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Arjuna has addressed Lord Krishna as Govinda because Krishna is the object of all pleasures for cows and the senses. By using this significant word, Arjuna indicates that Krishna should understand what will satisfy Arjuna's senses. But Govinda is not meant for satisfying our senses. If we try to satisfy the senses of Govinda, however, then automatically our own senses are satisfied. Materially, everyone wants to satisfy his senses, and he wants God to be the order supplier for such satisfaction. The Lord will satisfy the senses of the living entities as much as they deserve, but not to the extent that they may covet. But when one takes the opposite way, namely when one tries to satisfy the senses of Govinda without desiring to satisfy one's own senses, then by the grace of Govinda, all desires of the living entity are satisfied. Arjuna's deep affection for community and family members is exhibited here partly due to his natural compassion for them. He is therefore not prepared to fight. Everyone wants to show his opulence to friends and relatives, but Arjuna fears that all his relatives and friends will be killed on the battlefield, and he will be unable to share his opulence after victory. This is a typical calculation of material life. The transcendental life, however, is different. Since the devotee wants to satisfy the desires of the Lord, he can, Lord willing, accept all kinds of opulence for the service of the Lord. And if the Lord is not willing, he should not accept a pardon. Arjuna did not want to kill his relatives, and if there were any need to kill them, he desired that Krishna kill them personally. At this point, he did not know that Krishna had already killed them before their coming into the battlefield, and that he was only to become an instrument for Krishna. This fact is disclosed in following chapters. As a natural devotee of the Lord, Arjuna did not like to retaliate against his miscreant cousins and brothers, but it was the Lord's plan that they should all be killed. The devotee of the Lord does not retaliate against the wrongdoer, but the Lord does not tolerate any mischief done to the devotee by the miscreants. The Lord can excuse a person on his own account, but he excuses no one who has done harm to his devotees. Therefore, the Lord was determined to kill the miscreants, although Arjuna wanted to excuse them. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So it's 6:21.
Thank you so much for reading and touching some really, really important points. Would like to ask devotees if there are any questions, any comments, or you would like any clarification, please do jump right in and ask. I do have a question. In early verses, Srila Prabhupada's purport, he was talking about unflinching devotion. And can you speak more or shed some light? What actually does it mean to have unflinching devotion?
Hare Krishna. It's a very, very good question. What does it mean to have unflinching devotion? First, we are being taught by Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti to learn how to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead through instructions from a spiritual master. When one is sold out to the spiritual master, we're not at a point where we love Krishna like we're at the Krishna Prema level, but we have a guide given to us by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Yashat Prasad Bhagavad Prasad, by the mercy of Krishna, one gets Guru. When the answer to your question is when we unflinchingly obey the instructions of a spiritual master, then since the spiritual master is a representative of Krishna, we are actually unflinchingly serving Krishna. Krishna is the one that put Guru, the idea of getting Guru, in place. This was his doing. And he says we should approach him, we should inquire submissively, we should serve, therefore we should also obey. It's implied. Therefore, if we do what the spiritual master, the bona fide spiritual master tells us to do, asking questions only for clarity, not challenging. That's just we're asking submission. Then that is our gauge of unflinching service, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, through Guru. So the position of a spiritual master is very important because he's playing the role of the representative or the ambassador for Krishna. On the other hand, if we take it the other way, if we refuse to obey Guru, then in fact, the transcendental system, the Lord's agents, take it that we will refuse to obey Krishna because that's Krishna's representative, with Guru. So unflinching service comes from what Guru tells you to do and you do it. In fact, if he's appointed some people in position also, senior devotees or temple commanders and so on, your mood should always be to serve, not to challenge, but to serve. And if we serve in that mood, only asking for clarification, and sometimes you might need help also in getting the service done, but the service should be done. If we do not challenge or do not come up with excuses, then we are actually obeying in total submission, which is unflinching. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Anyone else has a question? A question to clarify, a point that was read in class, for the past 20 minutes. Please do jump right in. Can I, let me see if there's anyone else. I just want to go down the list here to make sure I'm not missing anybody. Can you, and thank you for answering that. I think for my mind, I also, if you could add one more, is what actually does the term unflinching mean? Because I think some of us might have different meaning. I just want to get a better understanding of that.
Unflinching is obey without reservation. Obey without reservation.
Thank you. That helps. I can put two and two together. Thank you so much. Any questions from devotees? Any points? Any clarification? Any thought that's coming to your mind while we heard this? Another question that I have, I think we have 5 more minutes, is there was one verse that talked about self-interest. How can we understand our real self-interest? The phrase out, Prabhupada says in the purport, our real self-interest lies in Krishna. How can we understand that?
Krishna, our self-interest, real self-interest lies in Krishna. Well, Krishna is the sum total of all that be, and our happiness lies in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, if we do anything outside of Krishna consciousness, wanting the results for ourselves, we're going to learn that ultimately, if not earlier, later, we will be frustrated by it. There's frustration. You're not going to get everything that we expect. Yet, if we serve Krishna by the instructions of Guru, instructions of senior devotees, and not expect anything, we will, in fact, Krishna would make sure that we stay happy. Internal happiness would begin to manifest. And despite everything that happens that is challenging around us, we will still feel a sense of satisfaction. Even while we're here in this material world, that is bound to happen. But that's through Krishna's grace and Krishna's own decision. Therefore, we have to depend. A devotee's mindset would be, I serve Krishna, I'm not expert at serving Krishna, but I obey what spiritual master says to do. And in that way, I serve him, I serve devotees, and I serve Krishna. And that should be the mood. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Anyone else has questions? I know I've taken up the time to ask questions. We'd like to hear from others. If you had any questions, any comments, any food for thought. Or Mother Gita, would you like to shed some light, Mother?
Pariksit Prabhu has given enough light, enough food for thought for us. So perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mother. Anything else from devotees before we end this? Any comments, any questions?
My own reading of this, what's coming to me, Arjuna not wanting to kill his relatives, obviously opens the door for Krishna to talk about the Gita to him from the point of view of the spirit and not the flesh. Because Arjuna was looking at it materially. His kinsmen, according to the flesh, he was attached to them, and he was also a very compassionate person. And that's why, even though he was trained as a Kshatriya, he still did not want to take up arms. Again, he was feeling very, very, very much compassionate towards even the soldiers on the other side, who had come to fight, who were most likely going to die. He knew his own experience in fighting, and therefore he knew that he would in fact be able to take the lives of many of the soldiers on the other side. So all of that, bothered him. But that's out of compassion. A devotee has that kind of compassion. Demigods have that kind of compassion. But when Krishna says do something, then Krishna's plan is the most important. And therefore, Krishna's plan is what has to be obeyed through the guidance of Guru. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for adding more to that. It was such a nice reading. I know for myself personally, I'm really enjoying the Krishna sandwich. Both, Bhagavad class in the morning and then the evening, 3 times a week, we get to hear Bhagavad Gita. Such wonderful experience. And I hope all of us here are enjoying and really relishing it. Would like to thank devotees for joining us, and we will continue next week. Have a wonderful weekend. Vanchakaptibhyascha kripasindavevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Have a wonderful weekend, devotees. Hari Bol.